if you're an attractive lady, you can, and again, this is speaking very generally, don't get upset. If you're an attractive lady of the sort of 18 to 25 age range, you can get away with not working out. Like, and and nature kind of does the work, and you have your curves and your hips and bust and all the rest of it. Whereas the guys typically are all worked out, or they were. So if we throw up the lineup from 2016, you can see that all these guys, washboard abs, they clearly hit the gym. This is not Mother Nature at work here.
No.
And then when we put up the one from the lineup shot from this year, the guys, they're not
as much
the same caliber. Like, they're still good-looking boys. Don't get me wrong, but like, there's not the same. There are quite. There's quite a few softer. Softer stomachs in there, and like softer abs in there. Like, there's not the same chisel, sort of worked out aspirational. I think that's the word, actually. There's not as many aspirational physiques.
Welcome to Raise the Bread, new episode. It's been a second. I'm joined by Ben Sharp, the best, the greatest in the game. And like, subscribe, do the whole thing. Click on the link to the Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter at African Follow Ben at Ben Sharp. And thanks, guys.
Ben has words on Twitter.
Not even close. So it's been a minute. I'm clearly not in the, I'm out of practice, but let's hope we can change that. How have you been, buddy?
Yeah, we'll get warm. I mean, it's been a good week. It's been a good week in the UK because it's the greatest, nothing to do with Pride Month or anything like that, but the beginning of June hails the start of Love Island, the annual pilgrimage of the British to Mallorca, where and it really is a tradition. Do you know there have been a handful of studies that have shown that productivity in British offices goes up when Love Island's on because the colleagues have something to talk about, and so they all click and they all gel and they all bond. And apparently you see the similar spikes when England is performing well in football tournaments, like because everyone is getting together and everyone's chatting and everyone's talking and everyone's jovial. Yeah. But so we had Love Island start this week, and I learned through Cody Coe and Noel Miller that because they had a very successful series of this must have been like 4 years ago now of playing the Love Island iPhone game. And they racked up so many views, and it's a really funny series. It is so good, but then that was what really hit me of like because they have quite a very small sliver of their demographics British, but they seem to love Love Island UK, and then I found out
we love it. We devour it.
Now, is it the novelty of the accent? Like, because some of the accents I can't even understand as a Brit because they are so road.
They're so northern. So there's always this is what I've noticed. There's always a really, really hot chick who's indecipherable. I can't, but I'm captivated. I'm captivated because I'm like, ooh, pretty. Like, just keep talking. Yeah. I'll listen to whatever you say, baby. Like, you are hot, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting, and that's why we tune in. Honestly, we're Americans are stupid. We like hot people, right? We love hot people.
The thing is, Cody Coe said it brilliantly on one of his videos about it, where it's like he said that the reason why it works, and I totally concur with this. Like the reason why Love Island works so well is because it just cuts compared to every other reality show. It's like this is what you lot. This is what you want.
This is what you wanted.
The baying public. You just want to see attractive people try and have sex with each other. That's all you want. So we're just going to give it to you, and we're not even going to apologize for it.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Exactly. Is this not why you came here for?
But one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was now, off the top, before I get into this, I'd like to say I'm not coming at any of these people, any of these contestants. Many of them are in better shape than me. They are more attractive than me. This is, and for the ladies, I don't want anyone to think that I'm just coming at these women. But there is I have noticed the downward trend in the general standards of contestants on Love Island. So I think it rebooted in 2015. So it's in its 8th year now of this setup of the show. And in 2015, 2016, you look at the lineups, and we'll throw in some pictures in the edit. So if you look at which ones did I send you? Let me get the ones up that I sent you real quick.
I mean, they were hot. I honestly got distracted, and I don't know what you mean about people being more attractive than you on the show. I get lost in your eyes pretty much every show we do, Benjamin, and I just go, you have to bring me back in, and I'm just like, what are we talking about?
Shut up. You told me that there now exists /fiction of us.
We have one piece. And we're doing
too many. I can't believe
that's 5 too many. That's what I thought.
I know I'm the receiver. I haven't seen the picture.
You're correct.
Yeah. And this is, I just know, and this is what I mean. It's like, but no. So I sent you, and we'll put these up on screen now. So you've got the lineup, and I'm actually referring more generally to the men, because women tend to if you're an attractive lady, you can. And again, this is speaking very generally. Don't get upset. If you're an attractive lady of the sort of 18 to 25 age range, you can get away with not working out. And nature kind of does the work, and you have your curves and your hips and bust and all the rest of it. Whereas the guys typically are all worked out, or they were. So if we throw up the lineup from 2016, you can see that all these guys, washboard abs, they clearly hit the gym. This is not Mother Nature at work here.
No.
And then when we put up the one from the lineup shot from this year, the guys, they're not
as much
the same caliber. They're still good-looking boys. Don't get me wrong, but there's not the same. There's quite a few softer, softer stomachs in there, and softer abs in there. There's not the same chisel, sort of worked out. Aspirational, I think that's the word, actually. There's not as many aspirational physiques. And I was watching a video essay. I wish I could credit the person, but I can't remember. But I was watching a video essay on Love Island, again, probably 1 or 2 years ago. And this woman was explaining how this was from 2018, excuse me. And it showed that because you had this guy, Jack, who had sort of pretty average body. And then you had this guy, Alex, who was a doctor. And then you had this guy, Adam, who was a personal trainer. And so, as you can imply, Adam was absolutely shredded. Jack, pretty average sort of dad bod style. And then Alex, a good shape, tall guy, good frame, but not exactly bursting at the seams. Right. And the what this woman posited was that you had who you probably were, which was Jack. Then you had Alex, who was very socially awkward and embarrassing. And so you had this character of who you don't want to be. And then you had Adam, who was good with the ladies and sculpted by Zeus himself. And so that was who you want to be. And they sort of posited these 3 things. And it's and maybe that held water in that particular season. But this season, I'm looking at it and it's they're all good looking people. But they're still not the same level.
Yeah.
And look, I'm going to say it. I do think the ladies, the standards have declined as well. The amount of times where you've got these boys, and they go on these dates and they come back and they go oh, she's absolute fire. And then I'm sitting there going, is she? What's fire about that? She's because Love Island. The other thing that mesmerizes me about Love Island is just the operation to turn that thing around. They have to edit 24 hours of footage for release the following night, straight away.
That's a lot.
They do 6 episodes a week. They have Saturday night where they do a compilation episode to recover, and then it goes again from Sunday night through to Friday night, every day at 9 p.m. And it gets millions of viewers.
I mean, I looked at the pics and the difference between 2017, the 2017 cast and the 2023 cast that you sent me, and it was there's a difference. There's a huge difference. The guys from 2017, I mean, the girls from 2017. I remember I texted you. Was like, can I have the one on the right? Just
this is 2016 we're talking about,
or 2016 too. 2016 as well. Yeah, and I was just like, this is why we watch this show. This is why Americans fucking devour this show, because it's just incredibly hot people. And then you sent me this year's cast, and it's like, well, there's you only see the difference, honestly, if you look at the pictures, and it's there. It becomes very, very clear. And I don't know if this is just a general, like, what's the message? Like, what are you trying to, like, why would you do that?
The underlying thing is why, because it's like the first, bearing in mind, I think the viewing figures have remained relatively consistent, but nobody, I reject this argument that, people want to see what they want to see, relatable characters. So I accept the idea that you might need one or two, like, to draw you in. But the first season, 2015, second season, 2016, had great viewing numbers as well. So, and if anything, the British public has got fatter since then. So this is not the idea that, it's putting off viewers if you have too many what would now be called unrealistic standards.
Right.
Is not true, because the viewing figures were good then and they're good now. And I can't help think about, is it just an attack on, because we have seen, Lizzo, that there is just an attack on beauty standards in general, and this idea that all these girls that you see on these kind of like talking head gonzo style YouTube videos of, like, rate yourself from 1 to 10, and the amount of people that just, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, hang on a minute. Before gonzo referred to a style of pornography, it was a style of journalism.
I wasn't thinking that at all. I just thought it was an interesting. Well, in that case,
I've just put my foot in it.
Outed yourself. Yeah, that's fine. No, I think. I mean, I was talking to you about this before the show started. It's the same thing that's happening in the comic book world, in my world. Honestly, frankly, like, the reason why I was telling Ben earlier, like, the reason why I started bodybuilding to begin with was because of freaking Steve Rogers, Captain America, right? Like, he looks, that is what a man, that to me, I was like, that's what a dude should look like. Not exactly like him, because that's really difficult to sustain. You can read, like, interviews with Chris Evans where he says, I love working out, but when I have to do, this movie, I have to become something that is not really maintainable. But, like, it's still good, I think, to have that as aspirational rather than, as an aspiration.
If anything, there's a utility to it being slightly out of reach.
Exactly.
Because you're never
exactly
done.
What I was going to go to.
You keep trying. Yep. And it's like, and that's something I think that's something that's really important, because we are seeing this kind of attack on standards. Because it used to annoy me, this idea of it being called unrealistic, because it's like they'd show a picture of an actual human and go, this is unrealistic. It's like, no, it is real. Look, she exists. It's very difficult and it's very rare. But it's like that. There's actually nothing wrong with that, because it's like, because if you miss, and, like, friend of the show Alan Roberts talks about this all the time. Like, one of the things that really gets me about him, just going for the tangent for welcome to Raisin Bread, is the idea that people, when you see his exchanges on Twitter, people seem to think this guy has no empathy or sympathy. No, he has those two things in droves. He's been there. He's been that person.
Unbelievable. This is the thing that angers me the most about people when they talk about him, is they're like, oh, you're just a heartless piece of shit. No, this guy cares a lot.
He's been the guy.
He's been that guy. He makes fun of himself. He says, bro, I couldn't get through doors. Literally, I couldn't get through doors.
Well, the other thing that he still says, though, is he still goes like, no, I am constantly, every day, battling with my propensity to binge eat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, every single day.
And he gives credit to people where it's due. I mean, I've retweet him all the time when there's like, someone shows, like, their, like, exercise results. The thing that seems to be and I was talking to you about this idea earlier, that we're pushing back against, the heart of all these issues is this: we don't like conscientiousness anymore. And in the States, we don't like children, and we really don't like conscientiousness of any sort, of any expression. It doesn't matter if it's a dedication to a sport, right? It doesn't matter if it's just some form of excellence in any, pursuit. We just don't like that. And it's one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know what to make of it, because it seems like we're being, and I don't know, I know we can get conspiratorial occasionally, but I tend to fall on the side that these things are a confluence of events. But like, we're dressing worse, right? We're dressing worse.
Right.
We're taking care of our bodies in a haphazard, not haphazard is generous. We're not taking care of our bodies, right? So everything is being pushed towards looking gross, kind of, or not gross. I'll say unkempt, just unkempt in the fullest sense of the word. And I don't know why would you want that from your citizens? That's a weird thing.
Well, this is genuinely right. And this, some people might think this is like a verbose point, but Love Island really does serve as this great cross section of the culture and what people are doing and experiencing. So like you can see fashion trends from it, and there are some things that are really positive, right? Like, so for example, in the early seasons there was a lot of fast fashion, and the shows were sponsored by fast fashion brands, and of course people just buy it because it's a trend for literally a month, and then they just disregard that clothing. Now the show sponsor is eBay, and there's a huge push eBay for like the idea of reusing stuff and not just throwing it out, and taking care of your garments and all that kind of stuff. So there, and so you can see that's a positive push in the culture, but then there's also the negative push in the culture, which is like there's less and less footage of the what do they call them? I nearly said inmates. Then that's not what they're called. Contestants. The contestants.
The prisoners. I really like the line of prisoners. I really like their prison costumes.
There's less and less footage of them in the gym,
right?
And it's like, which is
interesting.
Totemic. And they have this full workout area, and it's like there's always don't get me wrong, as I say, there are still some shredded, really physique specimen guys.
There's one black dude,
but it's normally limited to one or two. And it's now, maybe if I take my tinfoil hat off for a second, maybe it is the idea that it creates more of a ramp, so it makes the fit guy look that much better. Maybe that's what it is, because you need the heartthrob character for the show.
That would be crazy. Yeah,
it would be crazy if that would happen. But then if I put my tinfoil hat back on, it's like the idea of no, they're just trying to. It's a symptom. I don't think it's an input. I think it's a result of the symptom or the culture at large, like you say, just rejecting this idea. And I think conscientiousness is the word, because if you're conscientious over your body, you look after yourself, you take care of yourself, and it's just like it is. And then, just as an aside, forgive me for this, but where do they keep finding these specifically Dublin black people? Because there's always one. I don't remember the last time there was a white Irish person in Love Island, but every year, like, don't get me wrong, there is that combination is, it's a fierce combo.
I didn't even think that was a thing, and then you said it, and I was like, well, I suppose theoretically, that's from
across the Atlantic. Baz himself has just basically gone, wait, there are Irish black people? Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably burst out laughing. I'd be like, "You're not. You're doing a thing. You're with me." I don't know how I would react to a black Irish person. I don't know. What is that?
It's a fierce combo, but it's like it is. But it's great. Like, but it's almost in the world of diversity quotas. It's one of those ones where it's a bit too obvious. Like, well, that's why I have the problem. But they've literally done it. Like, I watched. Look, guilty as charged. I watched this show religiously. They have literally done it 3 years running.
We should watch it. We should watch it together. We need to watch it together. We need to watch it together. I will watch this with you. Here's the thing. I'll say. Oh, go ahead. Finish your point. I apologize.
I was going to say, I at least 3 years running. I think it might even be more. But it's like at least 3 years running, and I don't like. And it's like. It's too obvious. It's you're showing your hand too overtly that this is clearly like, we need to make a statement of taking probably the most densely white populated area in the British Isles. And
here's the thing. This is why I have a problem with the James Bond films, right? Like I get why people are like, well, maybe there shouldn't be a black James Bond. My argument isn't, well, he's, whatever. My argument is, hey, this dude works primarily in Scotland, in Ireland, in a lot of places where he probably wouldn't hang out if he was a black dude. So I don't really know. Or at the bare minimum, he'd be easy to spot, right? Like he could run through, those chase scenes that Bond films always have, and he puts on an outfit and then blends into the crowd, right?
Yeah.
Even with the disguise on, they're like, do you think it's the black guy? It's probably the black guy, the one black guy that we can see over the horizon. So I don't know. Yeah.
Look, I'm saying if you want to do, if they really want a black-led spy franchise, let Nollywood do it.
Give them the money. They will. They might actually kill it. They might actually kill it. Yeah, they might actually kill it.
It will break box office records.
Yes.
It will. Yeah. I would pay double the going ticket price to watch that.
I would watch that shit too. I watch it so quick. I watch it and I would bring a non-existent, or I would bring. Oh God, would I bring a date? Dating is. I don't think I would bring a date. You could bring your wife. It'd be hard for me to bring it. It's hard. I mean, I've been off and on the past couple of weeks. Dating is rough where I'm at. I wanted to bring up this video that I talked to you about, the TikTok video. There's a TikTok video of a woman, and I'll tweet this out. There's a TikTok video of a woman who talks about how much of a hard time she's having whilst dating. And I found it really fascinating because she's a leftist. She's very much on the left, very liberal. And she describes her frustration ultimately about, and I wish we could show it. Maybe I'll try to edit it in. But basically her whole point is she can't find a man to serve as the traditional quote unquote masculine role in her life, which is to provide and protect and yada, yada, yada. Right. And I found her fascinating because if she is truly a member of the left, I thought those roles weren't something to aspire to. I thought that was a role that you trained leftist men to not fulfill and not provide. So it's from the jump, it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's also another interesting thing that she said was only conservative men seem to possess these traits. And she did not want to be with it. She said she could be with a moderate, but she couldn't be with a full-blown Republican. So already we're dealing with someone with a pretty extreme bias, right? I tend to lean right on a lot of issues, but I also am moderate on a lot of issues. But I could easily see a woman like this calling me a Republican, right? Just because of certain views that I have. And so there's a combination of this misperception of what it actually means to truly be on the right, but also underneath all of that, which is just as concerning, which is this idea that Republican or conservative equals evil, and I can't date someone who's equals evil, right? And I just find that interesting, man. It's really fascinating because I thought that we had trained. I thought the whole point in this entire enterprise was to not fulfill these certain roles, and also if and she mentions her job and how happy she is with it, which is, by the way, great, right? More power to you. But what are you imagining? Do you think Ben's wife is chained right now to the oven, right? Barefoot, not possessing her own agency, not capable of, fulfilling her own, needs and desires and wants and aspirations. Honestly, that's kind of what I walked away with, was this weird, you have a weird way of viewing people.
But she's also,
go on.
She's expressing an unusual amount of kind of astute awareness, because as you've pointed out, right, from and again, look, we'll either throw a link up to the video, might even cut it and put it in if we have already. Good, that provides context to this bit, but the idea being that, as you've already pointed out, she is clearly makes no secrets about her political affiliations, and that she is very firmly entrenched in leftist politics.
Right.
Which then is actually almost quite surprising that she still possesses the awareness to go like, oh yeah, it's conservative men that possess these traits that I want. And it's like, wow, you're so close.
You're so close.
You're so close. If you keep mining that vein and date one, you might find out that all this talk of them being Nazis isn't actually true. Like the idea, I find it hilarious of the idea going that of her sitting there like matching with somebody on Tinder and going like, he's really, he's good looking, he's got all the family values that I'm after, but I just can't help but think that he wants to usher in the Fourth Reich because he's a conservative, and that's how I've been trained to view conservatives. And it's like, no, he might actually be really moderate on so many things.
He might be cool. Yeah. And that's the thing, man. And the other thing that sort of bothers me is this. It's crazy because it used to be that people would get married despite having different, political opinions, or like, I don't know why politics have now like become a placeholder for faith. Because like I've been in really great relationships before.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that's so true.
Like I've been in really great relationships where it didn't work out, and this is this is not me pushing back on these ladies at all. Like they're great people, but faith was an issue, right? And I understood it. I didn't resent them for it. Like I get it, right? You got your own thing. If you're really serious about your faith, you probably want to be married to someone who's of the same faith as you, right? But I didn't realize politics served in the same manner. So is politics now the new faith? Is that what we're doing now? Because the new faith, by the way, for the faithless, for the essentially faithless. So
yeah,
go on.
Well, for example, we were talking about this earlier in the week of the famous Karl Marx quote of religion is the opiate of the masses. Right. And I told you that the first time I heard that, despite the fact that the first time I heard that expression, I wasn't a religious man or didn't consider myself to be. And yet my knee-jerk reaction was, I think religion's better than opium, like for people.
It's just a fire line.
Like, it's just like, because that's actually, I'm not denying Marx's claim. Like, yes, it might well be the opiate of the masses. It's better than an opiate. Like, because, but then you're right about, I think it has replaced it, because if you meet somebody and they are overt in their religious adherence, you would probably think as one individual to another, they're probably unlikely to change for me, or I'm unlikely to change this person's mind because they're entrenched. Whereas like with politics, you'd be like, well, let's see what the underlying principles are. That's what it used to be. That's how I still choose to live. But it's like, but then you're right, because it's replaced faith now. Now it is like, oh, well, they're not going to change because their ideological adherence. Because that's the other thing is politics. They don't mean politics like you and I mean politics,
right?
Like a never-ending discussion and push and pull, and like it's a constant cycle and battleground of ideas. It's like to them, politics is here's my set of like. You even look at it with the words, right? Like, and I know I jump on this soapbox all the time, so indulge me. But it's like when people say, like I was literally just before we jumped on to record this, I was watching a video on YouTube Shorts of a woman having a go at a guy saying, "Do you believe there's two genders?" And then he went, "Yes," and she goes, "Well, then you're a right-wing extremist." And I'm sitting there going, like, "No.
That's how politics works, Ben. You distance your allies."
I'm annoyed at the man in this, because the man is like, "No, you don't believe in two genders. You know there are only male and female. You know it. You don't believe it. You know it." Like the reason why we say things like "I believe in ghosts" is because we don't have any cold, hard evidence for the ghost. So knowing that ghosts exist is too much of a stretch. So we say, "I believe in ghosts." But then to sit there and go, "Oh, I believe in male," no, you know there's only male and female. But this is what I mean. So the fact that and language is very, as the great George Carlin always used to talk about, language is very, very telling. The language that somebody uses is very, very telling. So when they say, "I believe in more than male and female, I believe in more than two genders," because like, to be honest, I even loathe the word gender, because it's like, no, we don't need it. It's a synonym for sex as far as I'm concerned. But it's like, but they use belief so much, and they're using all this religious phraseology. Like I can't remember who it was that pointed out when, like, particularly during the pandemic,
it's almost the praxeology. Go on.
Yeah, well, it's not science; it's the science. You don't believe in like you'd say the Lord, like, and that really is an important distinction because because the other thing is you don't believe in science.
Yeah.
You read science, you observe science. You don't believe in it. You know that gravity exists, such is the scientific evidence that we have.
And I think the pushback you'll get is like, well, gender doesn't actually encompass sex, which I get. And by the way, there have been individuals who, this is a rabbit hole I've gone down because this is stuff I'm interested in, where people possess both genitalia, right? It's a thing.
Yes,
I think this idea that there seems to be a universality in this, in everyone experiencing this, that for me is, at least me personally, I don't find that relatable. I've been very conscious of my knowing that I'm a dude for a long time, but trying to steer us a little bit back to it.
Oh yeah, do you remember when we were talking about women on TikTok? Yeah,
the thing that I got out of this, honestly, ultimately, is that, look, lady, all the dudes that you're looking for, they're going to be on a side that you may or may not completely agree with, and reconciling that is part of the human experience, right? All the liberal men with these, the liberal men with these values, they're gone. You push them out. You're going to have to accept that.
Right.
You're going to have to learn that. And then you can start sort of the process of finding your own dude. Or you can do what my leftist friends do, which is decide to start dating other women. I have friends who will push. Like I have a friend. No, for real. I have a friend of mine who complained, and she's a great gal, and she'll be a guest on the podcast in July, which I'm really excited about. Who's complained to me about how she doesn't know whom to date, and she's asked me, should I just date girls? Because all the guys I'm attracted to don't agree with me politically, and the only answer I had for her was, yeah, probably. But which is a crazy notion because, like, basically on a fundamental level, she's pushing back on, her basic instincts, which is she wants a guy. That's clear. She's vocalized it, but her politics are so non-negotiable that she would rather be with another woman, which, if that was the CIA's goal, man, if I was the CIA, I'd be pretty happy right now about that. It's like, we don't have to do anything. These idiots will just do it for us. So
yeah, it's crazy.
But start an OnlyFans. That might be the only way you get.
Did you find that? Like, I'm sure you've used dating apps, right? Like,
yes, I have. Unfortunately, yeah.
Right. So, like, because I met my wife on Hinge. I used Hinge, and it was one of the things that I found, because on Hinge you could put your political affiliation, and I ended up sort of taking it off. I didn't bother doing, and at the time when I used it, I used the word moderate, but it's like because you had liberal, moderate, or conservative, and it was like, but what was insane was I used to see on female profiles a lot, which was, you shouldn't go out with me if, that was the prompt, and then it would be, you're a Tory,
ugly.
Which is the British equivalent of saying you're a Republican. And so it was like, because the Tories are an allegedly right-wing party. They haven't done anything right-wing since about 1981, but they're an allegedly right-wing political party in the United Kingdom. But what I never saw was, you should not go out with me if you're a Labour voter. Or like, you never saw it the other way. And that's so nuts. It's like, because I didn't care. Like, I remember dating somebody once, and then she was telling me, like, we got political on the first date, which was not my intention. And then it was the whole thing about white privilege came up, and she was a mixed race girl.
Benjamin, I know it wasn't your intention. Are you sure you didn't walk into a trap? And are you sure you didn't get pulled into something?
Well, maybe.
I'm reminded of a dinner of you're being combative, Benjamin. I don't know if you remember that, but yeah. No, but yeah, okay. So you gotta get this. By the way, that is not something I want to talk about on the first date. Just to be clear, if I go on, let me look at it. If I go on a date with you, please don't bring up BLM. Please don't. It's really gross.
Right.
It's very uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about race. Let's just talk about things that we like. And hey, do we fancy each other enough to, take this somewhere further? But that's it. I don't want to talk that really. No one, one's loins aren't like your loins don't get like moved by, I don't know, math talk and
No.
politics talks. No, you it's somewhere else. But okay, so you're in this unsexy situation.
What was insane about it was, of course, as a result of this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think we went on another date, but then after that, we were talking. She got we were talking on the phone, and then after a phone call, she decided that she wanted nothing to do with me. And I was sitting there going, "Isn't it crazy? I disagree with you just as much as you disagree with me, but I thought it went really well, and I was quite happy to see you again.
You were fine with it,
but
yeah,
you wanted me just ejected from your reality, and it's such a one-way street. Yeah. Like like the fact that it's the other thing is what's crazy about this woman on TikTok going, I've got it's only conservative men. It's like, that means you're speaking to them, then you find, and you like, so the order that this happened in is you spoke to them, you liked them, you wanted to date them again, then you found out they were conservative, then you cut them out. So one buzzword and they were out. Like, they had everything you wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I'm yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It seems like everybody's kind of going down this hole where people are just, I mean, recently I've been seeing a lot of videos about OnlyFans girls like regretting doing OnlyFans and then talking about how they just can't seem to find a relationship. And it's like, man, it's like that video.
Kelsey,
I don't remember if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever seen that video Kelsey, we definitely, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions, Benjamin, that's the theme of all this.
We meet again.
Yeah, we meet again. Yeah, like, look at that. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme of the girl trying to fight off or the consequence of her own actions, but it's salient. It applies here. Who is this woman? Who's this, the woman you just mentioned? What's her name? Kelsey, what is it?
Oh, the British OnlyFans girl. So she wasn't actually expressing, this one wasn't expressing regret per se. But there's a lot of speculation that if you look at any comment section underneath this video clip, it will talk about there's members of the public speculating how she will come to regret it. So this is Elle Brooke, who is
crazy
apparently
hot.
a very successful, very successful OnlyFans model, and she was on Piers Morgan's show on, I think it's Talk TV, and he asked her, what about your children? And she said, I don't want children right now. And he asked how old you are, and she's 25. And she was like, so I don't want children right now. And he goes, well, you're only 25, so you're likely to want them in the future. And she goes, yeah, maybe. And then he said, well, what about, like, because apparently she was a very good student at university studying law. And then I believe, I might have this wrong, that she did work briefly in a law firm before turning to OnlyFans. She realized
she was hot. Yeah.
Right. And then, and Piers Morgan's remark was, well, what about your future children? Going, oh, well, mummy, you could have been a very successful lawyer, so why did you do this? And her response was, well, they can cry in a Ferrari. No. And it's just like,
what's the over-under, do you think?
What really annoys me is like the likes of the Unilad publication and Lad Bible and all these kind of modern British kind of BuzzFeedy, tabloidy magazine publications, online publications, treated this as if it was like the ultimate put down of 2023. And it's like, she's just admitted her kids are going to cry. Like, she hasn't even tried to come at it from the angle of, well, actually, Piers, I disagree with you because I think that sex work will be accepted and so they won't even find it upsetting. She hasn't even tried to do any of that. She's gone, they'll cry, but at least it will be in a supercar.
So you acknowledge it then. You understand what's going on here and you just don't you just don't care. That's fun. Say that, actually. Actually, I appreciate that response now. Because now, like, if for anyone who's thinking or paying attention, especially the type of man that this smoke show is going to want, the right dude isn't going to want her. I mean, the right dude for her might, but the type of dude I'd want to associate with, nah, he's going to pass on that.
It's just like I've always maintained, right? So like, I'm sure there is a small subset of people, male and female, who can legitimately do the open relationship thing, and legitimately like take a guy who's genuinely monogamous and maybe worth his salt and would actually want to marry this woman despite a career on OnlyFans, and is able to make peace with the idea that videos of her having sex with other men are on the internet forever. But it's such a small number of people. Like I'm willing to accept the possibility that these men exist because there's a lot of people in the world, but it's such a small subset of people.
You got to still be real hot. That's what I've noticed.
Right.
I hear this argument a lot of times from the galdem, as they're known. I'll just find a guy, and it's like, will you though? Is it a guy you're going to be attracted to? Because you're beautiful, babe, but you're not a hot millionaire. That's another level of access. And that's honestly, maybe this is a reflection of me, but like I'm always, you and I are the same in that we're always thinking about the macros. We're not necessarily thinking about these exceptions to the rule. We're focusing on the rule. Crazy concept, right? And the rule,
autistics unite.
Yeah. Shout out to the Chicago Association for Autism. Wait, did I ever tell you this story? Story?
What I'm desperately trying to remember now is the episode that you talked about that in, to tell people to go watch. Just watch all of them, and then you'll eventually find where Bass tells that story.
Yeah, I was invited to be a part of a spectrum, or those members of the spectrum performance. At the time, I was undiagnosed. So basically, they just mailed me an invitation and assumed I suffered from autism. And by the way, great work. Good job on that one. It's all really great.
This
really nailed
it.
Yeah. I was like, he was right. So anyways, no, you and I've tried to focus on the macros. When I hear this stuff, I'm not thinking of like your what's her name? Elle Brooks, the Elle Brooks, right? I'm not thinking the the Elle Brooks of the world. I'm thinking of the Stacys of the world, those people who do not have the same level of access. And by the way, who are still extremely beautiful, right? But that's another level. She can come. I mean, let's put aside I don't know if I can put it aside. Let's put it aside for now. This idea that she's going to obviously be a problematic mother, but for her to say that and make it seem like anyone can do that, I don't know if that's fair. Maybe you can aspire to it. Maybe you can aspire to it.
Yeah, it's like it's a very kind of strange. I actually appreciate, if you watch the whole interview, I appreciate the sort of candid nature in which she speaks, because Piers Morgan refers to her as an online stripper, and she responds with, "Oh no, I'm way worse than an online stripper. I do things that are far more grotesque than being an online stripper."
Crazy.
And it's
that's a crazy thing to say.
It's a crazy thing to say, but I almost appreciate the candid and the honest nature with which she responds, because she doesn't pull any punches, and she is sort of at least honest about what she does, and so there is a certain degree of respect to be given there.
Right.
But it's like that, be that as it may, it only goes up to a point, because it's like if you do adhere to some kind of moral code, it's like, well, this is something that just shouldn't be on the internet and shouldn't be in the public domain. This is something that historically was private, and I feel like as these countless OnlyFans women who are taken to TikTok to recount their dating woes of not being able to find a man, it turns out that it might have been kept in our private lives for a reason. Like, as with a lot of like traditional stuff. And actually, we've already talked about James Bond. One of the greatest quotes was in Skyfall for James Bond, where he sits down with Q for the first time in the art museum, and he says Q says to James Bond, age is no guarantee of experience. And Bond responds, and youth is no guarantee of innovation. And that is a brilliant piece of writing because it's so true. It's like, and it's the same with like when we talk about these norms, like the idea of keeping your sex life private, let's say, like I'm all for the conversation of, well, maybe we can dispense with that and it doesn't need to be private. Fine. We need to establish very carefully why it is currently a norm that it's private and any useful things that holds, and the fact that it means that it can't be used as an attack vector because sex is an incredibly vulnerable thing for everybody, and it's probably when you're at your most vulnerable as a human being in your day-to-day life. And that so and again, not saying that you can't dispense with that which is traditional, but not before you've established very clearly why it's traditional or conventional, and whether or not it has any utility.
You know, you're right. It's first off, it's an extremely vulnerable position, right? Besides, I would say sex and eating are probably
right.
Those are the moments.
There's never been a good-looking picture of somebody midway through eating,
right?
Ever.
Well, I mean, you're super, just spaghetti in mouth, just falling out of your mouth. There's no way, And so in that manner, yes, it's incredibly vulnerable, and maybe we should take that in consideration when we're having discussions. It's interesting because it comes down to, I think I've talked to you about this before, this idea that we seem to keep pushing up against. It's in a lot of these things, it's the same ideas we're pushing up against. There are a couple types of people in the world. There's and the two types who are kind of at war right now are those who might be walking in a field and encounter a sign and find that the sign, or not find a sign, they'll find a fence, right? And they find that the fence is in their way. So they'll go out of their way to just take the fence out of their way so they can continue their journey. And there are the rest who may try to find out why the fence is there to begin with. And those two people seem to be butting heads constantly now in the cultural zeitgeist. And that's interesting to me. To me, the obvious thing is to find out why to me, the thing you need to do is find out why the fence is there. But there are also arguments for why the fence might not have to be there. Unfortunately,
yes, I'm open to those arguments. I'm
open to
absolutely not closed off to the idea of challenging convention. Like
that's the whole enterprise. Yeah, I get that. Right. But what it seems to be happening is we throw away everything, and it's like, do we need to throw everything?
Ask questions later.
What's that about?
But this OnlyFans thing is the perfect example, right? It's like, I'm sure there'll be no problem with me uploading naked photos of myself on the internet. And then it's like, oh, wait, I can't find a man who wants to commit to me. And then they go one of two ways, which is the kind of, I actually regret my actions and I'm looking to repent. It's very religious wording, but you know what I mean? Looking for some kind of repentance and some kind of reconciliation with themselves. Or it's just flat out, well, it's because of misogyny. This is, and that is it, right? It's like, oh no. And then the one that you hear all the time, and forgive me, ladies, but this one really does bug me, is the one of like, well, it's just because their men are easily intimidated because they can't handle a woman who is sexually expressive and isn't afraid to put herself online. It's like you're conflating not handling with just not wanting. They're not the same. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, the intimidation argument's got to go. That's one of those things where it's like, why we're still talking about this? Like, no one's intimidated by you. No one's. I mean, short of you whipping out a gun, yes, then I'm intimidated by you.
Right.
But sans gun or sans a weapon of any sort, we're probably fine. Are you planning on something? Why would you ask that? It doesn't matter. Anyways, all right, that's it for us, guys. Like, subscribe, join us again. Like I know we've been in and out lately, but we're trying to get back on track. So join us again next week, same time, same place. Thanks, guys. Bye.